And then there's Robert Burnett. He's 30. He's works in IT for the St. Pete Clearwater International Airport. He's married as well. The detective said he cried a lot and he peed his pants. I understand that. I'm married to an Auburndale girl. I would think this is the end of my life because if I go home, she's just going to kill me. I don't think that happened to him. At least there's no death reports yet. But he did go to jail. That's just a snapshot. They all have a story. We just picked those out. Now, I want you to hear from some of our subject matter experts that worked with us today. We'll start with Jody and Stacy from One More Child. Jody?
Thank you, Sheriff. Good morning. My name is Jody Domingue. I am the Acting Chief Operating Officer at One More Child. One More Child has been providing services to vulnerable children and struggling families for over 120 years. This includes advocacy and direct care service to survivors of human trafficking throughout Florida, North Carolina, Tennessee, Ohio, and several countries around the world. The Polk County Sheriff's Office still remains one of our closest partnerships, and I would like to congratulate them on another successful operation. Once again, we were able to join them at Ground Zero every night, providing opportunities of hope and a future by those who are impacted by sexual exploitation. Because of our incredible partnership, One More Child spoke and offered services to over 90 individuals, 19 of which have already agreed to services that include connection to safe shelter, advocacy, mental health counseling, and mentorship with a lived experience expert. One More Child provides immediate and ongoing services not only to those who are able to be identified as victims that night, but also to individuals who are not ready to identify and who are still in a life of sexual exploitation. I say this every time. The individuals who walk through that door might not be ready to be identified that night, but what we know is that statistically, there is a history of abuse and sexual exploitation in their past. No one grows up wanting to sell their bodies for profit, and we are committed to providing opportunities for a life outside of sexual exploitation and human trafficking. Critical partnerships and collaboration like what you see up here today is very important, but we are only one piece of the solution. We have to set a precedent in the state of Florida that the purchasing of a person should be more than a mere misdemeanor. Advocates have introduced legislation for the past several years to try to increase penalties that are worthy of the trauma that impacts every individual that is bought during these operations, and to make the first charge a felony. This is a standard we must set in the state of Florida to put a dent into this problem. Legislators, we need your help next year getting this over the finish line. Now, the true heroes in this collaboration are our survivor leaders and our lived experience experts. They bravely utilize their history of pain and trauma as a bridge of connection for those who are recovered in all of these operations. They use their life experience to inform every aspect of our work, and they are the only real experts in this field. One More Child ensures that a lived experience expert is on the ground every night of these operations. And I would like to introduce you to one of our most incredible survivor leaders, and she's lent her expertise for many years to these operations, Miss Stacy Ham.
Good morning. I want to first start by thanking Sheriff Grady Judd, the Polk County Sheriff's Office, all the other law enforcement that assisted with us, and to the NGOs that we continuously collaborate and partner with. Your dedication is what really makes a true difference here today. I stand here before you not only as a survivor of human trafficking, but as someone who once believed that's all my life would ever be. My story began before I even had a voice. I come from 3 generational cycles of familial sex trafficking. By the time I was just 2 years old, my father sold me to the first time to one of his friends in the neighborhood. My siblings and I, we grew up with abuse, abandonment, and fear. We were often found sleeping at parks or wandering downtown alone. The times we weren't needed, we were held in closets or locked up in a backyard. I grew up expecting fear at any moment and I was eventually removed from my home. I was separated from my siblings and placed into the foster care system. While I spent my time in the foster care system, we continued to be exploited, and even one of my siblings continued to be sexually abused, and the case never went anywhere. I was then adopted into a home, and I'm often asked, when adopted, is that when my rescue came? And it wasn't. That's when my abuse continued to happen and my exploitation continued. I grew up thinking that this was normal, and this left me open to be susceptible to be a vulnerable target. I was so desperate to be seen and to be loved, and this led me right back into a cycle of trafficking. We often imagine traffickers to present certain stereotypes or to be a certain gender. But my trafficker as a young adult was a friendly female who was the retail store manager of where I applied an interview. She hired me, gave me a place to live, and provided me a sense of family and protection that I was so desperate for. But really, her kindness masked a vulnerability of her luring me back into the life of trafficking. During this recent sting operation, I heard story after story that echoed so much of mine. So many of the victims that my team and I got to work with shared childhood abuse, time in the foster care system, times their family members were selling them, times that nobody would look and listen at them. Two of the survivors that we got to talk to shared how they were offered false promises. It was prostitution, they were told. But really what it was is they were being exploited, they were being sold, and they were being faced with threats, and they were being feared. We often ask, why don't they leave? Why are they choosing to stay? But I can tell you, as someone who was pulled back into the life of trafficking, it impacted my housing, it impacted my job, my transportation. So where was I to go? It took several people coming into my life, trying to make a difference and trying to show me that there was positives, there was an outcome, and there was a way out of this. They say it takes an average of 10 points of contact for someone to feel comfortable and safe to finally speak up to be seen. When I found the courage to try to finally leave my trafficking situation, I was met with fear and I was met with threats. There was the threats that they would release the content that I had created during my exploitation, and I had no clue who would get that. I was faced with the very real possibility of losing everything. And as someone who had lost so much in her life, the little bit of stability I had was what I wanted to cling to. That's the reality for so many of the survivors that we work with each and every day. It's the choice between staying in a dangerous situation or stepping into the known with little or no safety net to catch them, and that's what my team and I do. And everything changed for me when the right people came along. They didn't ask me why didn't I leave sooner, but instead they asked, how can we help you? How can we give you the tools for you to create the life that we know God gave for you? They helped me with resources, with therapy, and most importantly, a belief that God has a true purpose for my life. The operation we're discussing today, it's more than just a news headline. It represents lives being saved, generational cycles being broken, hope being rekindled and restored to survivors. But this is just the beginning. True justice doesn't end with the arrest. It continues with our survivors receiving long-term support, rehabilitation, and the unwavering belief that every person deserves freedom, dignity, and a future. To the survivors watching and the survivor sisters here with me in this room, you have value, you have worth, and you have purpose. And to everyone else, I ask you, keep showing up, keep fighting for survivors, keep fighting for us to be seen in spaces where you don't see us. Every voice and every action, it matters and it does make the difference. Thank you.
If there's any doubt in your mind why we do these human trafficking operations, there's your sign. If we only saved one, it's worth the whole operation. And I can tell you with Jody and her team, we're saving a whole lot more than that. And that's very, very important to us. Next, I'm honored to introduce David Grady, the Assistant Field Office Director.
Good morning. David Grady with ICE Enforcement and Removal Operations here in Tampa. Just wanted to start off, thank you, Sheriff, and all the agencies here for allowing ICE Enforcement and Removal Operations and Homeland Security Investigations to be part of this well-executed operation. ICE is in a unique position to enforce U.S. immigration law in the U.S. interior with its broad investigatory authorities and law enforcement capabilities. Our congressionally mandated mission is to preserve public safety and national security by keeping dangerous criminal aliens out of our communities. ICE uses data-driven, fact-based intelligence to identify, arrest, and remove criminal aliens from the United States. It partners with local, tribal, state, and federal law enforcement agencies to keep our communities safe and preserve national security. We prioritize public safety over politics. Brave officers are on the streets every single day, risking their lives to locate, arrest, and remove the most egregious criminals in line with the President's policy of the worst first. Throughout this operation, ICE ERO officers encountered over 50 foreign-born aliens and placed detainers with the Polk County Sheriff's Office on over 30 of them. ICE enforcement and removal operations, as well as Homeland Security investigations, are committed to our partnerships in the effort to identify and combat predators engaged in human trafficking and child exploitation. Once again, Sheriff, just thank you very much for allowing us to be part of this operation this year. We look forward to our continued partnership. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Now, I'm going to say some things that our colleagues, our federal colleagues, are not permitted to say because they work for bosses who work for bosses who work for bosses. I can't say enough good about ICE, the ERO, and the HSI guys and gals. They are hand in glove with us every day. They have a mission from the President of the United States. We also have another mission at the state level from Governor DeSantis, and that is to keep people safe. Now, I want to underscore one more time, 15% of the people that we arrested weren't even supposed to be in this country, but they were in this country committing crime. 26 of the 36 here were not documented at all, which means they didn't come across the border illegally and then check in, as we were led to believe they were doing. But 26 of the 36, they had no information on them at all, which means they snuck in the border and they're in the country. So we really don't know how many illegal immigrants are in this country. We know how many came in and checked in. Several of the comments that these illegal immigrants made is, yes, they're feeling the pressure, but they're not going anyplace. We asked them, hey, will you take the $1,000 and go home? And they go, of course not. No, we're not doing that. We're staying here. They're going to stay here until we make them leave. We heard stories of why they were crossing, as they were making their way to the border, that people dying at various crossings in Mexico and Central America. One told us that he made a $20,000 payment to a coyote to get him into the United States, and he walked for 5 days through the desert. Another said he paid $10,000. Now, he's been deported 3 times and he keeps coming back. Another paid $7,000 to come across. When we ask one, why do you keep coming back? He said, oh, I always keep coming back. I'm in construction. I can make $60,000 a year here under the table. And I can make, $6,000 in Mexico, $10,000 in Mexico. I'm always coming back. Even when y'all send me away, you're going to have to stop me again. Ladies and gentlemen, another reported that he came here illegally from Cuba and saw 2 people drown along the way. They shouldn't be here. They're committing crime. They're taking up resources of United States taxpayers. They're not coming here the right way. We open our arms to those immigrants that come here legally and appropriately. But the ones that come here and commit crime, that is 100% totally not acceptable. Now, I would ask if Ms. Peters, Rita Peters, from the statewide Office of the Attorney General would come. James Uthmeyer, our Attorney General, is always eager to send people and to help us with these operations. And Ms. Peters, as I said earlier, is just simply the best of the best when it comes to prosecutors.
Thank you, Sheriff. I am very honored to be able to have a nickname from one of Florida's favorite sheriffs. So I'm going to boast in that a little bit and live in that glory. Thank you, Sheriff. Thank you to all of the heroes that were part of this operation. I have the